Let's give our panelists and moderator another round of applause. And if you could please remain on stage for a photograph, that would be wonderful. In the meantime, I'd just like to remind everyone that there is also the Crescent Ballroom next door. So if you wish to join some of the sessions there, feel free to do so. Before I introduce our wonderful next panel. Thank you so much once again. And now next on the agenda in this ballroom is a panel discussion on why Indonesia matters. And leading this discussion is Aastha Maheshwari, senior reporter from DealStreetAsia in Indonesia. And joining Aastha are Stefanus Hadiwidjaja, Chief Investment Officer at the Indonesia Investment Authority, and also Sunata Tjiterosampurno, who's the Co-CIO and member of Investment Committee at Northstar. So let's please give a very warm welcome to our panel.
Despite the global uncertainties, Indonesia has remained and become one of the most attractive investment destinations in the last 1 year. You know, we've seen like FDI in Indonesia rise above 40% in the last 1 year. So Indonesian government has set up an Indonesian Investment Authority, INA, in 2021 to ramp up investments within the region and ensure sustainable investments in the country. Talking about Northstar, Northstar has been one of the oldest investors in Southeast Asia, an Indonesia-focused investor which manages assets under management more than $3 billion and clearly has been early backers of companies like GoTo and Indomart and even eFishery, the latest unicorn of Southeast Asia. So thank you. We have with us, Sunata from the MD of Northstar and Stefanus, the CIO of INA, joining us. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for talking to us. We're going to be discussing about massive opportunities in the private and the public investment space in Indonesia. Talking to you, Stefanus, can you take us through the evolution of INA in the last 2 years and how can we assess INA's performance, your medium-term mandates, and how, is it different from other sovereign wealth funds?
Sure. Yeah, we are quite unique compared to the typical sovereign wealth fund because we have a specific mandate to not only to invest our capital and obviously to make a commercial return, but also to bring global and local capitals to co-invest with us in Indonesia. That's our unique mandate. And hopefully by doing number 1 and number 2, we can speed up the growth of some of the main sectors in Indonesia. So that's what's unique about us, right? So we are new. We are only 2.5 years old, but we have made a decent progress. I think in terms of deployment, in the past 2.5 years, we have deployed slightly more than $3 billion in probably around 8-9 deals. And we actually have created a lot of collaboration with the top global investors, ranging from the pension funds, from the developed markets, other sovereign wealth fund like the UAE's ADIAS, ADG, partnership with GIC. We have a lot of partnership also with strategic investors. So I think in total we have sort of like a capacity to deploy more than $20 billion through different collaborations. And I think what's equally important for us is, I think in the past 2.5 years, we have built a decent reputation so that now not only we are reaching out to global investors to come and to co-invest with us, we also get a lot of calls from the corporation, from the investor to explore a lot of things in Indonesia. Obviously, Indonesia has been really the jewel of investment in the past few years. I think the government has done a tremendous job in making sure that it's an investor-friendly and the right strategy to attract investors and so on, right? So that's probably a quick brief of our progress so far.
Stefanus, just to add to it, what will you tell this room full of investors right now? What are the massive opportunities or sectors that they should be looking at within Indonesia right now?
Okay, sure. I think I just want to be consistent with what we have been doing so far. Our focus is mainly in 4 areas. Number 1 is transportation infrastructure and logistics. It's ranging from the toll roads, seaports, airport, cargo, modern warehouse, and so on. Number 2, healthcare. Number 3 is energy transition. And number 4 is digital, particularly digital infrastructure, because that's where we invest most of our money so far, right? So these are at least the 4 areas that we think are very exciting for investor and also very strategic for our countries.
You know, moving to Sunata. Sunata, can you talk to us about the strategy of Northstar, investment strategy in the last 2 years? How has it changed, you know, considering you guys have also started a venture capital fund which focuses on tech investments? Could you take us through that strategy? And also, what unique investment opportunities are you seeing for, you know, you can tell the investors for Indonesia right now?
Okay. First, so our core focus are 3 areas: financial services, consumer mass market, and within consumer mass market, including consumer products, services, which includes healthcare, telcos, retails. So it's a broad consumer mass market theme. And the third one is actually digital. And digital is actually sometimes it's an overlay between financial services and consumer, right? I think Northstar, we've been looking at the startup sector for quite a number of years, since 2015. But in the past, our startup investment was done through our PE fund. And now, as the market is actually getting deeper and more opportunities, we are actually having 2 products, our PE fund and our VC fund, right? That allows us to have more flexibility in terms of investment check. We can go to very, very early at the seed stage and back some of the strong founders to grow the business.
You just recently launched a Northstar VC fund. Are we expecting a final close anytime soon?
We are, from a fundraising perspective, we are nearly there. Meaning that, you know, we have a target of 150 million. We are very close to 150 million, right? And we are still actively talking to a number of investors. But for simply state, we are pretty much done with NSV, right?
You know, Stefanus, you guys both have mentioned a common investment theme, which is healthcare. You know, talking a little bit more on healthcare, it has been like a darling among investors, you know, this sector. What is your outlook on Indonesia healthcare, considering a lot of global investors are also eyeing the hospital space in Indonesia right now? Are you going to see more M&A activity spike up in Indonesia in the next 1 year? And any investments that we can expect from you, Ina, in the healthcare space?
Yeah, for us, it's obviously very important. Not only from the country perspective, but it's a very attractive investment opportunity within this sector. We have been actively looking, and also we have invested, and hopefully soon we'll execute our second investment, and hopefully third investment in this space early next year. I think for us, the growth opportunity is immense in this market, right? If you can take any statistic around healthcare, the spending per capita, the number of the doctor per capita, and so on, we are way behind. And then Indonesia is such a big market, and it's also a growing market. So big opportunity there. For us, the most exciting part, not saying that the rest is not exciting, is on the services, right? On the healthcare provider, including even healthcare retail chains, laboratorium, primary clinic, and so on. And hospitals is definitely one of the area that we like. We think the needs of world-class hospital to cater all the demand will keep growing. And it is a market that is very fragmented, as we know. There are only a bunch of big chains. Even the largest chains the market share is in terms of the numbers of bed is probably only like low single digit. So it's very fragmented market, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity to invest in creating, another chains in Indonesia. And currently we are working on a deal in one of the largest platform of hospital in Indonesia with 70 branches. Half of it we own, the remaining we manage, with more than 4,000 beds. So,
how soon can we expect this?
Quite soon, hopefully.
This is Partamika heading.
No comment for now. I'll share to you later once we close the deal.
Sunata, talking to you also about healthcare, you have invested in Bunda a few years. Northstar has been an investor in Bunda. Currently, we're seeing that, a lot of hospitals that are gaining popularity, they're seeking very high valuations also and also trading at very high multiples. How do you think looking at unlocking more value for assets such as these, considering they're trading so high? And are they only hospitals or other niche healthcare verticals that are picking up right now?
Okay, maybe I step back a bit, right? The government last month just issued a new healthcare law. The objective of that law is actually to improve the quality of healthcare and also improve access to healthcare. One of the interesting part of the law is the government allows foreign doctors to practice in Indonesia. And it also allows foreign players, hospital group, if they acquire a business in Indonesia, then automatically as part of the investment and as part of that acquisitions, they can actually bring their doctors and nurses to actually come to Indonesia, right? This is actually very good from investment perspective, because the issue about healthcare is not about, healthcare is different than retail or consumer goods. It's not about, building the facility. The issues of healthcare is about, do we have enough doctors, nurses, qualified doctors and nurses to operate that facilities and, create an ecosystem that can grow the business more, right? On your point about valuations, well, at the end of the day, I'm just being pragmatic. If we overpay on something, obviously it's going to be very difficult to make money, right? But I think, valuations is actually, it's something that is actually, it's something that can be discussed. And at the end of the day, it's alignment of interest about how to grow the business together, what values that the founders expect from the investors, right? Expectations from the investor to the founders, right? So it's not just, it's just not the number itself.
Thank you. Stefanus, another sector that you both pointed out was the renewable space also. I think that both that INA and Northstar has been looking at actively. You spoke in a recent conference about how 3 areas you want to increase your focus on when it comes to renewable, natural solutions, and also EV space. So are there some projects that you've already finalized, and what is your outlook on the EV space going forward in the next 1 year?
Yeah, we put everything on this sector under what we call energy transition, which include renewable and also early retirement of the power plant as one part of it. In fact, in renewable, we have made one investment in geothermal together with Masdar, one of the largest renewable players from UAE. And on the early retirement power plant, we have 2 or 3 active projects at this moment. Number 2, nature-based solution. Number 3, yes, EV. EV has been a very important part of our economy in the past few years, and government has made the right decision to really push the investor to go downstreaming, right? So for us, we look the whole value chain of the EV, and in fact, we have built collaboration with CATL, one of the largest, if not the largest battery player in the world. We set up a fund together to invest across the value chain. Obviously, given their expertise, at this moment, our focus is still more on the looking into deals. We have not made any investment so far. We are still reviewing deals along the value chain, but mainly on the upstream, like the battery material, and hopefully at one point, setting up the battery manufacturer. And but again, it's not exclusive only with CATL. We're also looking to invest in some of already established manufacturing along this value chain. But hopefully, we will also invest all the way to the downstream, like charging facility, 2-wheeler EV, right? There are a few live deals that we are looking into this space. So yeah, it's really, basically, it's really end-to-end, given the importance of this sector for the country and also for the climate.
And Sunata, just talking on EV also, you guys have recently invested in Maca Motors. How are you planning to expand the EV play for Northstar?
I think EV is a very interesting development, right? And the amount of resources that the government and the players have spent in the past 3 years is actually big, right? But EVs is actually, you have the upstream, you have the midstream, and you have the downstream, right? And different players will actually have their own advantage, and they need to choose. Financial investors like us, we need to choose where to play, right? The upstreams, there are billions and billions of investment already made, right? Including, making some of the semi-material for the battery, right? And we're still few steps behind in terms of getting there, but I think it will get there, right? And then for us, from the financial investors, we're looking at more on the downstream part, i.e. the one that actually having the interface to the customers, right? Because that part is actually, the investment size is relatively smaller, right? And it is a collaboration among various parties to make this into a sizable and scalable EV opportunities. Because when that happens, then the one in the midstream, i.e. battery cell productions, charging stations, swapping stations, right? All of that requires enough demands of the product for investors to actually deploy the money.
Got it. Tell me this, Stefanus. You spoke about your different partnerships and collaborations.
Yeah.
You have a collaboration with GTL, you have with British Investment Authority also. You've invested in Kimia Pharma, Traveloka, among your recent investments. Can you talk to us about your synergies among these different public-private partnerships, and what's next exciting opportunity that you guys are exploring in terms of collaborations?
Yeah, since the beginning of our inception, we have built a many collaboration. Ranging from, as I mentioned, right, the other sovereign wealth fund, pension funds, strategic corporation, in terms of country from the UAE, European investor, Korean, Chinese investor, Singapore, and so on, right? The way we see the collaboration is back to one of the key things that we always mention, that what we are looking is not only capital, we are looking for smart capital, right? So when we build this collaboration, we know sort of like, it's not like a strict rule, but each of these investors has their own appetite and also their own expertise in which area, right? So for example, we build collaboration with British International Investment, BII, right? And also IFU from Denmark, right? One of the sovereign wealth fund from Denmark. Their mandate and also their expertise is specifically on green investment, right? And they have, European investor has one of the most advanced knowledge and experience in this space, right? That's very specific. With the Chinese investor, we explore ranging from healthcare all the way to like with CATL in EV, right? So it's quite broad, right? Recently, we set up a collaboration with GDS. It's one of the largest data center companies in the world, to build data center ecosystem all over Indonesia, but starting from Batam. We want to make Batam as one of the hub of data centers in Indonesia. So, but the keyword is that smart capital, right? Because like data center is very specific. We want to bring someone that knows it exactly. Building battery is very specific. We work with CATL. But sometimes, let's say in like toll road. For toll road, what matters is a long-term capital. That's why we partner with pension funds, like the Canadian, the APG from Netherlands, as well as ADIA from UAE. So depending on the the asset class, the investment, and the expertise that we need.
Got it. So now, in the context of a challenging macro environment, and liquidity crunch that we're seeing right now, how would you navigate potential obstacles, limitations in achieving successful exits when it comes to your investments? Are there alternative options for exits that you're looking at?
I think we have two businesses. One is the PE business, the other one is the startup, right? Of course, the startup, there are a lot of, I would say, issues, right? That from us as an investors, right, need to solve, right? Because and it depends on when we talk about startup, right? On the early stage, I think everything is actually still okay, in my view, right? Because we are still doing deals, a lot of people doing deals, a lot of our friends still doing deals, right? On the big digital companies, the issue is actually valuation, right? Can they raise money? Yes, they can raise money. Are they raising money at a discount? They raise money at a discount, right? They can get the money, but not at the valuations of what it was 2 or 3 years ago. The question is actually the one in the middle, right? And the one in the middle is actually an adjustment process that every company is actually going through now. But I would argue that it's actually something that is actually positive. Because at the current moment, if we look at the unit economics of some of the digital companies in Indonesia, it's actually much better compared to 2 years ago. But there's still gaps there, right? On the PE side, I would argue that the exit is always there. I think one of the key determinant of the exit is not actually the macro. The macro is not challenging. The key point of the exit is actually whether the portfolio company itself is actually performing or not. If the portfolio company is actually performing, exit is there. I mean, there are a few deals in the past 6 months, big money coming in, whether in financial service, consumer goods, etc., that people is actually, whether the trade is actually happening, right?
Yeah.
I just want to add one more point that Pak Stefanus mentioned about whether this is real for Indonesia. My partner, I think, is sitting over there, Chian. He hosted, this year we have hosted about 250 to 300 Chinese founders and investors coming to Jakarta, right? And so we're not talking about like all the big guys, CATL, etc. This is actually founders coming to Jakarta, just trying to build a business in Indonesia, right? So I think they see this as something, a market that is actually very potential for them.
Just to add to, I totally agree with Nata regarding the exit. I got asked so many questions, so many times about exit is challenging. I totally agree. If you have a good performing portfolio, you can exit, right? Those who cannot exit means the portfolio is struggling, right? But obviously, you also you cannot have like a ridiculous expectation on valuation. But if you perform well, you can exit. It's not an issue. You can see one of the IPO market in Indonesia is one of the best performers this year, yeah. 2023, yeah.
Some even the IPOs in the sectors that actually require intensive capital, they have been able to IPO the company and get, sizable amount of funds, like more than 500 million size.
Big IPOs.
Big IPOs, yeah.
You guys just spoke about the IPO market also. Just talking about a little bit on the IPO market in Indonesia also. I mean, the performance of recent listed companies have kind of shown some growing concerns, Are you seeing any brewing underlying fundamental challenges there in Indonesia that way that needs to be addressed, or what according to you? It's not.
If you're referring to some of the digital listed companies, yes, I think the share price performance is actually, disappointing, I would say. But I think when you're talking about the investment climate bigger than digital, it's actually okay. Because you can look at any of the retail company in Indonesia, consumer products companies, even this year, they're actually still posting, double-digit growth in terms of revenue, and sometimes it's actually, growing 20 to 30% in terms of net profit, right? I think the issue is not about whether the market or the consumer is actually don't have money to spend. They have money to spend, right? I think the issue is more for some of the businesses, they need to recalibrate their business model to make it more sustainable. And in the process of doing that, there will be adjustment in terms of growth. There will be adjustment in terms of addressable market. And that is a process that I think many of the companies around the world is actually going through, at least in this region.
Stefanus, just to add to this, looking at the macros right now and what's happening in China, how are you seeing these factors actually? Which are the sectors which are actually getting impacted, and how, as a public sector company, what are the things that you can do also to help these companies, and what suggestions are you giving founders and enterprises in these sectors?
I think, given the slowdown in China and a global slowdown due to the interest rate, the number one that is affected is, probably the commodity exporter, right? Given the slowdown, I think the demand of the commodity export probably will slow a bit. But the good things about Indonesia is our economy is a domestic economy, right? So we are not too worried about it. In fact, the inflation that happened in other countries is actually can be managed quite well in Indonesia. And you can see the interest rate has been quite stable, and we foresee that the interest rate will come down quite soon, assuming the inflation can be tamed even more, right? So, but all in all, related to the point from Nata, right? The global slowdown and the high interest rate happen in all market means investors are more cautious, especially in the darling sector like technology that can raise billions of dollars at the ridiculous valuation before when the interest rates are very low, right? When the interest rate high, I think it's again back to his point regarding it's all about the fundamentals. For me personally and INA, the way we see companies, we don't divide it into like, oh, this is tech company, non-tech. For us, we just see business, right? If the business is doing well, growing well, have a strong business model, profitable, yes, we can give a good valuation. If they are not, then we might not even invest, regardless it's a tech company or the non-tech.
Just last two questions, Sunata, I want to ask you, due to the upcoming elections also that are, we've seen funds readjust valuations in the last 12 to 18 months. Do you think we've come to an end to this period of readjustments, or are you still seeing that investors are being cautious?
Well, I think it will be different sector by sector. Certain sectors is actually more complicated because the issue is actually structural. But other sectors that actually able to grow and scale, I see my friend there, Nendra, it's CFO of eFishery, that just crossed the unicorn status and raised 200 million just 2 months ago, right? So I guess the question is actually case by case, and certain sectors is actually more challenging than the other sectors, right? On your questions on elections, look, the past 20 years of Indonesia, if you look at in Southeast Asia, the political stability of Indonesia in the past 20 years, post-Asian financial crisis, is actually ranks very high, right? Every succession is actually being done in a democratic manner, and political fractions, political powers are able to find a compromise, right? You can compare with, other countries in the region.
Okay, I think we're just running out of time, but the last very quick question, where do you see the next unicorn in Indonesia? We've seen only one unicorn in Southeast Asia in the last 1 year. Which sector or which company will be the next unicorn in Southeast Asia? Both of you, one quick answer.
I think things that relate to consumer goods and services, I think stand a good chance to actually make a unicorn, right? I think some companies that operates in a lot of areas of inefficiencies, for example, like agri-tech, they could be more to it, right? But over the next 6 to 12 months, right, it is a difficult market, right? So we have to give a bit more longer term horizon, medium term horizon.
But give me the name of the company. Sector, name, anything.
I think the way we invest, we don't really care to find the next unicorn. We just invest in good business, whether it's in an infrastructure business, healthcare, and so on. Healthcare is one area that hopefully soon we see more and more unicorn. I think even now at least the 2 out of the 3 or even the 3 big hospital is already unicorn, right? I really hope we can see more in this space.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. On that note, thank you so much for this wonderful session. Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I think lunch is waiting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for the enlightening discussion. If you may remain on stage to take a quick photograph. Thank you so much.